A very good evening and welcome to Newsfirst Primetime News coming to you live and direct as always from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Today is the 25th of February 2024. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Jayama Ratnaik.
And I'm Peruni Karunaratna. Before we head on to stories in detail, here's a look at your top stories for tonight.
Woman's social media post sparks privilege debate in Parliament with Rohitha calling for action. Politicians fear public scrutiny, argues Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. Presidential election on track, confirms Minister Nimal Siripala. Field Marshal vows to stay in SJB as long as political principles remain unchanged. Will former President Bandaranaike be given a post in the new alliance? Sarath Weerasekara opposes handing over country's gateways to Indian companies.
In our top story for tonight, the 21st of February, Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Member of Parliament Rohitha Abeguna raised concerns in Parliament today regarding a social media post allegedly violating his parliamentary privileges. Abeguna claimed a woman from Katukurunda made online posts that infringed upon his parliamentary privileges. The MP expressed a dissatisfaction with the current state of regulations, stating that laws like the Online Safety Act are ineffective if not properly enforced on such incidents.
Deputy Speaker, I have attached copies of the content posted on social media by a woman living in Katukurunda, Kalutara that violated my parliamentary privileges.
Kalutara Katukurunda Galupara ජනය විසින් සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ඔස්සේ තබා ඇති සටහන්වල පිටපත් කීපයක් මේ සමග ගරු නියෝජ්‍ය කතානායකතුමනි අමුණලා තියෙනවා. වැඩවලන පොලිස්පති
It reprimands myself and acting IGP Deshabandhu Tennakoon, branding us both as rogues and that we need to be arrested. Such comments can, at times, pose a threat to our lives. My parliamentary privileges have been violated and I request the said person be summoned to the Committee on Privileges.
මාගේ වරප්‍රසාද කඩවී ඇති බැවින් ඉහත ලිපිනේ පදිංචි ට වරප්‍රසාද කමිටුව වෙත ගෙන්වන ලෙස මම මේ ගරු සභාවට ගරු නියෝජ්‍ය කතානායකතුමනි යෝජනා කරනවා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මම ඔබතුමාට කියනවා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ
If any person is insulting any of the 225 MPs in Parliament, including the opposition leader, we must stand against it. If not, there will be no use of passing legislation like the Online Safety Act. Your proposal will be directed to the Speaker for appropriate action.
Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, Member of Parliament from the Jathika Janabalawegaya, took aim at the Online Safety Act today, alleging that it is used by politicians, highlighting its use by politicians to suppress public criticism.
It is clear that the ruling elite is afraid of the barrage of questioning from the public with regard to the social contract between both sides. The Online Safety Act, the Anti-Terrorism Bill are being used to suppress dissent. Their call is to suppress criticism and questioning and jeering. That should not be the case, but saying so exhibits fear.
At the US Senate, the issues of parents and kids were discussed and an apology was made. In the last year alone, countries like UK, Germany, Singapore passed online safety legislation. Every single country is moving in that direction. Developed nations are accepting regulation, but you are not. That is because you will be unable to spread lies and sling mud.
In a press conference, Elizabeth M. Allen, the United States Undersecretary for Diplomatic Affairs, addressed the recent appearance of social media company heads before a US Senate committee.
So, as you know, the United States has continued to engage with the leaders of tech companies, of social media companies, to ensure that their policies, that their terms of service, that their new platforms are taking into account the very real societal effects that their platforms are having on people both in the United States and around the world. We're keenly aware that global audiences are using these platforms, and they take increasing responsibility for what their platforms might mean if they are particularly misused in societies around the world. And I can tell you that the State Department, takes the feedback of and the engagement with tech companies as a critical part of our own diplomacy with the private sector, including the tech companies.
Under-Secretary of State for Public Diplomacy Elizabeth M. Allen voiced specific concerns about the Online Safety Act, stating that the United States has raised them both privately and publicly. She noted that attempting to conceal issues rather than addressing them is akin to hiding a broken tool rather than fixing it. Sri Lanka's Public Security Minister responded to the claims made by the US Under-Secretary.
The Under-Secretary had not read this properly to comment on it. She is just making a comment on what she hears. Her statement noted the need to look into the amendments. A leader in the opposition also spoke to me recently and I asked him to point out the anti-democratic clauses in the act. He could not respond. Say the correct thing and then criticize the government and myself using the correct facts. Then there is no issue.
Leading tech companies under the Asia Internet Coalition, including Google, Meta and Amazon, have reiterated their concerns about the recently passed Online Safety Act in Sri Lanka. Before the Act's passage, the Asia Internet Coalition sent a letter to the Public Security Minister outlining proposed amendments. The Act passed without incorporating the proposed changes, despite promises of subsequent revisions. The Act remains inactive due to the absence of a designated commission and implementing regulations 21 days after its signing by the Speaker.
The Online Safety Act was passed in this House in an arbitrary manner. The recommendations of the Supreme Court were ignored. If those shortcomings are not addressed, we will be compelled to move a no-faith motion against the Speaker. The Attorney General advised Minister Tiranalas to incorporate the suitable recommended amendments. The remaining amendments are not taken at the committee stage. It is to be introduced as fresh amendments by producing it to the Cabinet and obtaining approval. Accordingly, Minister Tiranalas presented the proposed amendments to the Cabinet a fortnight ago and it was approved to be sent to the legal draftsman. Once it is received, it will be sent to the Attorney General for a certificate on constitutionality and then it is sent back to the Cabinet. This is a half-baked bill. We argued that the bill be introduced afresh given the volume of Supreme Court amendments. That should have been the ideal move. That is a policy-based decision of the government or the minister.
The lawyers for the Truth and Justice movement are urging the immediate withdrawal of the anti-terrorism bill following the Supreme Court's recent determination deeming the clause on offences is inconsistent with the Constitution.
The Supreme Court says that Clause 3 is inconsistent with the Constitution. If the offences and the penalties are described in Clause 3 and if the entire clause is unconstitutional, what is the purpose of this legislation? Anti-terror legislations are to prevent acts of terror. This legislation has failed. The Supreme Court has mentioned that this bill's provisions are inconsistent with Article 12(1) of the Constitution. There are over 100 members in Parliament who would vote for this. We are definitely aware of that. We would like to warn them that the day they fall into the trap of suppression is not far away.
Discourse on multiple legislation such as the Online Safety Act and the Anti-Terrorism Bill deemed to restrict the rights of the people has arisen while this year has been named an year of elections. The opportunity exists to call for any of the one elections including the presidential election, general election or the local government elections. Speaking in Parliament today, parliamentarian Nimal Siripala de Silva said that the presidential election will be held as scheduled.
When's the election?
කියනවා ජනාධිපති
They are saying that the presidential election will not be held. If that's the case, then why are we preparing for it? They say that the presidential election will not be held. They say that we are planning on holding a referendum and postponing the election. I responsibly state that we will hold the elections as scheduled, and I challenge any candidate from the opposition to contest the election and win if you can. The people are not that foolish. Anyone with a brain should understand that if we are going to do what they allege us of trying to do, we will have to change the constitution. We will have to hold a referendum. Now there are 10 to 12 candidates who are sewing clothes and preparing themselves for the opposition. All of you prepare yourselves and enter the contest.
ඔක්කොම ලෑස්ති වෙන්න. ඔක්කොම ලෑස්ති වෙන්න. ලෑස්තිලා සටනට එන්න.
When's the election?
SLPP MP Ranjit Bandara says there is no time to experiment presidential candidates.
There are groups where there are presidents appointed already. They only need to take oaths. There is another group where they have presidents who are to be elected. What disappoints is that none of them are concerned over the existing problems in the country. We don't have time to give this country to another joker. You can chase these people away with a small stick with ease. The SLPP is aware that we have to make someone who will ease the burden of taxes from the public and strengthen the economy the president of this country.
Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca, the chairman of the Samagi Jana Balawega, says that he has no plans of leaving the party as long as the party's goals remain unchanged. Now he was speaking to India's Vion.
So, sir, are you staying in the party or are you leaving the party?
I am in the party, as I explained to you right now.
Okay.
I don't want to abandon my supporters. I don't want to abandon basically the party principles because we work very hard to establish this party. This does not belong to any individual or any particular group of people. It belongs to all the party supporters and also the organizers at various levels. Therefore, I will ensure that I continue with the party. My political principles have not changed. I still stick to same principles, so I am trying my best to stay in the party.
Any fallout with Sajid Premadasa, and there are also reports emerging that you plan to join the government?
No, I don't think things have gone that far. Joining the government is out of question for me at the moment. Who will want to jump into a sinking ship? But my relationship with Sajid Premadasa, he is my leader. Even up to now, I am his number 2 so far in the party. We never had any personal confrontations. As I explained earlier, the whole issue started with the event which took place. Sajid Premadasa, he has to exhibit his leadership qualities and ensure that he handle issues professionally. And I am ready to cooperate with him. As far as the targets, our goals are not still remains unchanged, then there is no reason for me to think of shifting my political agendas.
When's the election?
Organisation activities of the alliance led by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party are being carried out these days.
There were multiple rounds of discussions held in this regard. It is as a result of such talks that the constitution was amended for the Podujana Eksat Peramuna to be represented by the chair. What we have to do is appoint the office bearers. Next, everything else will be carried out speedily and effectively. Madam Chandrika will be serving as a patron of the party. She has the right to get involved in the party's activities. This will be taken up when we discuss positions.
Minister of Public Security Tiran Alas attended the media briefing at the Presidential Media Centre.
හිරුනිකා මහත්මිය ඔබතුමාට බරපතල චෝදනාවක් එල්ල කළා මේ ඔබතුමාගේ සාක්කුවේ තමයි කුඩ්ඩෝ ඉන්නේ කියලා.
මම නම් ඔය එක කුඩුකාරෙක්වත් දන්නේ නැහැ.
I do not know any of them. No member from our families are affiliated with them. She is the one who knows them since her childhood. She should know them by their names.
උනන්නේ කවුද කුඩුකාරයෝ කවුද කියන එක යානම් අඳුරනවා.
Human Rights Watch එකේ කියලා තිබුණා මේ යුක්තිය ඔපරේෂන් එක නවත්තන්න ඕනි කියලා.
Human
Rights Watch and all of them came for this previously as well. Did the operation stop? Maybe the intensity of the operation would decrease once it is concluded.
උනාට පස්සේ
මේ මූණම නැවත පොලිස් පති විදිහට දකින්න පුළුවන්ද එහෙම නැත්නම් අලුත් මූණක් එයිද?
මට නම් ඕනේ මේ මූණ පොලිස්.
I personally want the same person to be IGP. The government has no objection. However, the Constitutional Council needs to be taken into consideration. If the current program needs to continue, I believe the same person should become IGP.
දාගන්න ඕනේ මේව ඔක්කොම නවතින්න.
Journalists questioned the minister about the threats to his life.
බුද්ධිතවරතුරක් තිබුණේ මටයි පොලිස්පතිතුමාටයි.
We got information from the intelligence agency that there are life threats to both me and the acting IGP. Those who want the title stripped off the acting IGP are apparently spending money on fulfilling their objectives.
පවා මුදල් වියදම් කරනවා කියන කතාවක් තමයි තිබුණේ.
මේ කටයුත්ත අතගහන අවස්ථාවේදීම අපි දන්නවා.
When we took up this task, we were aware that the organized crime network locally and overseas will work against it. We know that they will not hesitate to commit assassinations as well. We stepped forward while aware of that. Sri Lanka Police is a strong institution and the STF stands with the police for support.
Minister of Justice Vijayadasa Rajapaksa visited a house and land in Malbana that garnered public attention in the past due to its apparent lack of ownership.
The 16-acre property known as Malwana Riverside Villa was at the centre of public scrutiny due to its initial association with former Minister Basil Rajapaksa. Investigations and legal proceedings were initiated to determine ownership, with the accused ultimately acquitted and the case concluding without identifying an owner.
This 15-acre land plot was taken under the Ministry of Justice during the period of the Aragalaya. This building, which is worth millions and is under the government, was set on fire. Those who were accused of this have now been acquitted. We have no other option but to present a suitable project for this purpose and use it for something beneficial for the country.
A joint protest was held near the Lake House roundabout in Colombo this afternoon against the sale of national resources.
The protest organised by the Movement to Protect National Assets opposed the attempted sale of SLT, banks, CEB, Insurance Corporation, Postal Services, Railways, Milco and airports. They allege that the government, which has no mandate to sell any institution, is selling public resources by choosing buyers in a corrupt manner. The group protested during the lunch hour.
If this procedure to sell off state resources is not stopped, the government will not have much time left. We wish to tell Ranil that no matter what threats are posed, we have joined forces for our cause. As the Movement to Protect National Assets, we would like to tell Ranil that as citizens of this country, we will not let you sell off any state-owned institution.
A strong police presence was witnessed in the area during the protest.
A distinguished delegation featuring the esteemed Hindu spiritual leader from India, Swami Kaishalanandan Giriji, is currently on a visit to Sri Lanka. Now, this visit aligns with the schedule of the World Summit.
Today, a distinguished group including Swami Kailash Anand Giriji, Sanjay Raj Moksha, the head of the Moksha Foundation, V. Mahalingam, the former Deputy High Commissioner of India in Jaffna, and IVS Syed Mohammed, an Indian architect, paid a visit to the revered Sita Amman temple in Sita Oliya, Nuvarelia. The delegation was welcomed by Minister Jeevan Thondaman. Following religious observances, the delegation visited locations linked to Ramayan.
हम लोग आज श्रीलंका सीता अशोक वाटिका श्रीलंका में आए.
We will receive the blessings of Sita and Hanuman. We are happy to be here. We will be hosting a World Peace Summit and that is why we are here.
धर्म को और बल मिले, धर्म को और बढ़ावा मिले.
He met with the president and former president Mahinda Rajapaksa. He also met with other political leaders. We are blessed to have him.
The citizens of the People's Struggle Movement filed a complaint at the Criminal Investigations Department today against the statement made by Minister Harin Fernando in India.
The citizens of the People's Struggle Movement points out that Minister Harin Fernando has made this statement against public order, national security, the national economy and the country's constitution.
He made a statement in India that disturbs the national unity, national security and communal religious unity of this country. What is the reason for him to make such a statement? On what basis did he say this? He must be called to the CID and questioned in this regard. Harin Fernando made this statement in another country and not within the parliament. The country's IGP is very quiet about this. The IGP and Attorney General are obliged to commence investigations against a member of parliament who has disturbed the country's sovereignty.
On the floor of Parliament today, MP Sarath Weerasekara addressed the issue and Minister Harin Fernando responded to the allegations.
I commend the President's efforts to steer the economy towards stability. As a ruling party MP, I must note that we are experiencing Indianization in the country. I am against that. If India is trying to use Sri Lanka, we are against it. We are against Sri Lanka becoming the 29th state of India. We appreciate the support given by India during trying times. However, we are against awarding the country's gateways at the airports to Indian companies. The person whom I should respond to is not present in the House. Yesterday, several alarming comments were made with regard to a comment I made in India. The sad part is that we speak for around 15 minutes. A media channel would air 2 minutes of that. I saw how comments made by the chair were also edited to give different means to suit the political agenda of a certain channel. We have been highlighting the dangers in the online space, but this is something that goes past that. This is a time when record numbers of Indian visitors are entering the country. When speaking of the historic links between the nations, the word Sri Lanka of India was termed as unconstitutional. I would like to state that this person brought forward the so-called Sri Lankan Lee Kuan Yew, Mahathir Mohamad and misled this country. We recall that past. We recall how we removed the cap of a police officer in Tumulla. They are using me as a bait for political gains. I consider this as a despicable act.
A protest took place opposite the Tourism Ministry against Minister Harin for saying that Sri Lanka is a part of India. We are a part of India. Have we not accepted this as a Buddhist country? Who is Prince Siddhartha, who was born 2500 years ago? He was born in India. Are we not worshipping Lord Buddha, who's also Prince Siddhartha? Did he not come from India? So, India is our brother. The group that is always protesting needs to understand that.
Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara announced a reduction in electricity bills for several categories during a parliamentary session today.
In October, we increased the electricity bill by 18% in the domestic and religious categories. We increased the tariff by 12% in the category that was for the tourism, industries and hotels. General purchase in the state sector was increased by 24% in October. Therefore, in the figures that the Electricity Board provided and in the revisions that will be given tomorrow, we are working to remove the October hike completely. That means the 18% hike for the domestic and religious categories will be removed, the 12% hike for industries and hotels will be removed, and the general purchasing will also be reduced. We hope to present the proposal with more possible revisions tomorrow.
The Jana Aragala movement protested against the rising cost of living and farmers being deprived of a reasonable price for their harvest. The Jana Aragala movement protested, citing that with the rising prices of goods, surviving in Sri Lanka has become a challenge. A large number of people gathered to protest in Rapalana.
Russian emigres in Spain, critical of the Kremlin, called on the Spanish authorities on Tuesday to better protect them after a Russian pilot who had defected to Ukraine was found shot dead in a garage in a town on Spain's Mediterranean coast.
Ukraine's GUR military spy service has confirmed that pilot Maxim Kuzminov, who flew to Ukraine with his Mi-8 helicopter last August, has died in Spain. A Spanish judicial source said that police were convinced Kuzminov was the true identity of a man found a week ago, riddled with bullets in an underground garage in the town of Villajoyosa in southeastern Spain, bearing a Ukrainian passport in a suspected fake name. In Moscow's first comments on the case since news emerged of the killing, the head of Russia's foreign intelligence service said the dead pilot had betrayed his country. Western leaders say Russia frequently assassinates those it deems traitors abroad. Moscow says the West has not provided evidence to support such assertions. In October, Russian state TV reported that Russia's intelligence agency had been given the order to eliminate Kuzminov. The Kremlin said on Tuesday it did not have any information on Kuzminov's death. It comes as the US and other nations consider their response to the death of leading Russian political opposition figure Alexei Navalny, whom the country's prison authorities claim suffered sudden death syndrome at a remote Arctic penal colony.
Elon Musk-owned X briefly suspended the account of Yulia Navalnaya, the widow of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who died in an Arctic prison.
Billionaire Elon Musk owned X on Tuesday briefly suspended the account of Yulia Navalnaya, the widow of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who died in Arctic prison. A message on Navalnaya's handle read, quote, X suspends accounts which violate the X rules, unquote. Meanwhile, Navalny's spokesperson retweeted a screenshot of the suspended X account. However, X restored Navalnaya's account without clearing why it was suspended in the first place. Elon Musk was named by Navalny's Anti-Corruption Foundation in a post that inquired as to, quote, exactly which rules were violated by Navalnaya. X hasn't issued any statement on the incident so far.
Some time back, Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny was asked what his message would be to the people if he was killed. Now here is his response from the Academy Award-winning documentary about him, titled Navalny.
Здесь у меня просто очевидная вещь. Ну, не сдавайтесь. Не надо, нельзя сдаваться. Если это произошло, это означает, что мы необыкновенно сильны в этот момент, раз они решили меня убить. Ну и нужно использовать эту силу. Не сдаваться. Помнить о том, что мы огромная сила, которая находится под гнетом вот этих вот чуваков плохих, лишь потому что мы не можем осознать, насколько действительно мы сильны. Все, что нужно для торжества зла, это бездействие добрых людей. Поэтому бездействовать не надо.
Well, March Madness is certainly around the corner, with traditional rivalries reigniting their sportsmanship and brotherhood. The Battle of the Blues Big Match press conference took place in Colombo. This is the annual Big Match encounter which is played between St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia and Royal College, Colombo.
The Battle of the Blues in Sri Lanka primarily refers to the annual cricket encounter between Royal College, Colombo and St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. 2024 will be the 145th edition of the Battle of the Blues.
For 144 years, the Royal Thomian Cricket Encounter, the quintessential big match in Sri Lanka, has happened without a break. And here we are to celebrate the fact that in 2 weeks' time, we will be playing the 145th encounter in the series at the SSC grounds. This event has been organized on such a large scale in recent years that it will be impossible for the two schools to organize this without the hard work and commitment of 50 plus gentlemen from the two schools who make up the joint match organizing committee. Even as it happens, there's always high expectations by supporters of both schools from the two teams. There is so much of rivalry, so much of camaraderie, so much of partying. It's not just any cricket match. Do your very best and play your best game, but please enjoy yourselves while doing so. It's not worth the pressure if you don't enjoy yourselves. I hope that my team will also stay at the crease long this year. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. That's what Tomian Grit is all about. We hope to have a good match on the 7th, 8th and 9th, and may the best team win.
This is the first time I would experience in the Royal Tomian Cricket Encounter since assuming duties as Principal of Royal College. The Royal Tomian is a very important event in the sporting calendar of both our schools. This encounter, conforming to the international standards, has an unbroken history of 145 years. Tremendous significance not only for the players, the parents and other school children, but also to Sri Lanka and world cricket. Sport is a critical part of education in molding children and releasing them to the society as valued citizens. We see firsthand the excitement and hope of our students and the sense of achievement felt by those who finally make it to the team. Fund generated from the Roito not only to support the two schools, but also help to uplift those less privileged, not connected to the two school, and the much needed medical sector. Please be assured that your goodwill benefit the student, uplift the game of cricket, and make a social contribution at a time when it's needed most. I wish both teams the best of luck and keep the spirit of the game going.
The 145th Battle of the Blues will be played at the Sinhalese Sports Club grounds in Colombo on the 7th, 8th and 9th of March.
The press conference to announce details of this year's Battle of the Maroons took place in Colombo.
The Battle of the Maroons refers to the annual cricket match between Ananda College and Nalanda College, and the two schools will meet in 2024 for the 94th edition of the annual big match. The Battle of the Maroons 2024 press conference was attended by sponsors among others. The first ticket for the Battle of the Maroons 2024 was issued to the widow of the late Bandula Varnapura, a prominent old boy of Nalanda College, Colombo.
Of the Maroons official launch too.
I, being a former military man who fought battle during my career, endless battles, the word battle itself is something little bit bitter for me. But we are gathered here to talk about the Battle of Maroons. Battle of Maroons is a very sweet thing. Even the word battle is there. It will be a clear exhibition of the brotherhood and comradeship. This time the Battle of Maroons will be organized by this mammoth organizing committee. That is 24 people from Ananda College and 24 people from Nalanda College, with their supporters under the guidance and advice of two principals.
TV1 is playing a part in...
The Sirasa Media Network is the official media partner for the Battle of the Maroons 2024. MTV Director of Marketing and Promotions, Charmika Roshan, was present for the presentation ceremony.
Action at home, but we invite you to come and watch it at the live grounds as well. There you have it. Electronic media partner, MTV Channel Private Limited. Legendary cricketer,
The Battle of the Maroons 2024 is played for the Dr. N.M. Pereira Memorial Challenge Trophy. The 2024 edition will be played at the SSC grounds in Colombo on the 2nd and 3rd of March.
Everybody, please put your hands together. Let's hear it for both teams. The Battle of the Maroon kicks off from here as we join you at the SSC.
In more news from the cricketing arena, Afghanistan posted a commanding 209 for the loss of 5 wickets in the third and final T20 international against Sri Lanka at the Rangiri Dambulla International Cricket Stadium. Afghanistan won the toss and decided to take first lease of the bat in Dambulla. Openers Hazratullah Zazai and Rahmanullah Gurbaz put on 88 runs for the first wicket. Despite losing wickets at regular intervals, the visitors held their nerve and went past 200 in their 20 overs. Ramanullah Gurbaz top scored with 43 ball 70 runs. Chasing 210 for victory, Sri Lanka are 76 for the loss of 2 wickets a short while ago. And with that, we wrap up primetime news for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Jayama Ratnayaka.
And I'm Piruni Karunaratna. Thank you for watching. Good night.